Welcome to WordPress St. Petersburg. This is a recording of our meetup from Tuesday, November 7th on Agile Project Management, a panel discussion, hosted by Big C. Big C is a marketing and web dev shop that has been developing on WordPress since 2005. From large-scale implementations and complex custom plugins to local businesses, the team has encountered just about every issue that might arise during the lifecycle of a project. During this panel discussion, the Big C project management team discusses their conversion to Agile, how they plan their work, their kickoff processes, the tools and conversations that they use to keep their work humming and their clients happy. Without further ado, here's the Big C team.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Graham. Like he mentioned, this is Big C. This is our baby. I have been working on WordPress since 1.0, building WordPress sites. I'm a designer and we learned to develop because I wanted to build more sites, and I learned WordPress and a little bit of PHP so that I could build CMS-based websites for clients. Back when we used to bastardize the blog and posts column to do everything else. So I've been speaking at WordCamps and doing WordPress work ever since then. I now run the content and the marketing side of things and design. I stay out of development altogether, and my partner does all the tech stuff now. And that's
I'm Zuli. Thanks for that intro. I'm usually typically very behind the scenes, so this is a little different for me, but I appreciate you guys being here. This is very cool and very lovely. So like you said, I have the pleasure of working with our project management team and our development staff here. And like you said, about 60% of projects are web-based. WordPress. More than that. Yeah, so on top of that, we do a lot of JavaScript with Angular.
What do we do that's not WordPress?
Angular.
There are projects.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd say we're like 90.
90% of our projects are WordPress. She's leaving here, as you have to tell. Yeah, so anyway, that's my deal.
Even if they're not ongoing work,
they're
built on.
A great time. So, these are.
Yeah, we're on Zui's team. We're the project managers here at Big C. I've been in project management a little over a decade. I've been client side and agency side, more agency than client because it's more fun. And what's your name? And what's my name? My name is Kristen Odom.
I'm Chastity Scoggins. Again, also a project manager and operations management. My background is in civil engineering, so I've managed a variety of types of projects and now manage website projects.
So how many of you come from agency world or freelance world?
Freelance.
All right. Yeah. And internal in-house developers elsewhere? All right. And how many of you are familiar with Agile as a project management? A little bit. Okay.
That's great.
Okay. So I have a bunch of questions that we've sort of lined up to ask each other so you can hear about it, but I'm curious, do we want to start with questions from them, or should we launch into sort of how we approached Agile project management and why?
Yeah, is there something that you guys are
Actually, that's a question I would ask you because you guys weren't always Agile.
No.
So that would kind of be a good start-off question is how you guys transitioned.
Yeah. So we were never a project in Agile project management and working. So I should start with the fact that we were about a 75% marketing agency and 25% dev and web dev. And that has been a change that's been a recent progression over the past 4 years or so. We realized that retainer-based income is far greater than project-based, not just in numbers, but in sleeping at night, wondering if we can make payroll 2 weeks ago. That stuff has been a huge change. So why did we migrate to Agile?
I think we had a lot of, so we always have a need to kind of get better, always, right? So it's like, you feel good now, but if you're rushing your worlds, then you never know what's going to happen next week or next year. After being in business for about 11 years now, one thing Andy's great at is just being an agency of change, right? Like, just agent of change, just ready, let's do this, let's rock. So
good way to phrase.
Yeah. So I think you guys will relate to a lot of this. We had some issues early on with making sure transparency in the numbers, trying to find out where resourcing is going. Again, 3 pillars of project management: scope, cost, and time. On any given project, those might bleed over, and we would try to do our best to say, hey, what happened with this project, project A? What happened with project B and project C? And we're trying to find a common denominator, right? So it's like, Well, in this case, we use, ACS instead of Podge. In this other case, we did this. In this other case, we did this. And it was really hard to find that stickiness, that glue. And so we were trying to do a little research, and we kept on trying this and that. And we finally decided to get this Agile thing in try. Right? We always heard about it. We were trying to do some things, some aspects of Agile. I'm sure everybody's heard of the stand up and whatnot, right? So we just want to do some of those aspects, see what that would look like. So we went full on, did a bunch of research, and actually weren't really ready for it, but we launched it anyway and said, hey guys, this is what we're doing. We're going to try this thing. Let's do this true Agile and just figure out, there's a lot that we don't know at the end of this road. And I think, to be honest with you, we're still heading in that direction, right? We're not really close to the end right now. So we just did it. And so now it's about 2 years now, or a year and a half? A year?
Just over a year.
Yeah. So
2 summers ago, last summer, Zoe and I just started reading. Everything we could about transforming to Agile, how that applies to sort of multi-project agencies, how that could be applied to, marketing retainers and things like that, because we have to make it work across everything. We decided that the tenets of Agile, which are the 4 things listed here, are really the things that we value anyways. And so we talk about those things as being important when we talk to clients, but we weren't really prioritizing them in our workflow. And so it felt a little bit authentic to say that these things are important, but we don't really work that way. We do these things in a different way. We also didn't have, like he said, really clear parameters around the work. And so we deliver design and we just say, oh, go ahead and develop it. We wouldn't know when the developer would go into a hole and come back out the other side, right? And so it's like, does it take 2 weeks or 4 weeks? We have no idea because we're not scoping it granularly enough for really understanding how much work is going to go into what we're doing. So the way we tackled sort of planning or working out change.
yeah, and heaven forbid, like if you're super passionate on a project, which I'm sure everybody in this room is, you guys are working down this thing. You guys are on a 3-month timeline, or 6-month timeline. And heaven forbid the customer changes their mind at like 1, 2, or 3, and you've written all these classes out. Like, what are you going to do, right? Or if you're in design, you've designed everything to work a certain way. Well, then now somebody, unfortunately, our PMs would have to have that conversation with your client. And it's really interesting because if you read the Agile Manifesto, like one of the first lines they talk about is how the goal is like making the client happy, the customer happy, right? By delivering continuous, valuable software. And that kind of just says it all, right? That's the whole point of this thing, because at the end of the day, whether your clients are internal or external, they're paying the bills, and we want to be able to have that balance between not being like us versus them all the time. So,
yeah, and that's a big piece of it. But you're talking about products, right?
No.
Because that's where your head goes. But to me, the hardest part to wrap my head around was the WordPress website is like usually a marketing-based website. And there's a lot of the stuff people come to us for is fairly complex, and there's some custom development aspects of it, but it's still a marketing tool in the long run. And you still have to have the about page written and this page written and fill in the blanks in the photography. So there's no iteration on that, right? You either have a photo to put up or you don't. So the big question is then like, how do we plan? How do we stay agile where we can make changes and work with the client when we're still in a very linear fashion, need things in a certain order? So,
How did you approach that? Because you're right. I mean, that's kind of the thing is you have to at least give something as an Agile product. You've got to give them something at that point in time. So do you basically work with them to say, like, this is going to be the bare bones, and then we're going to work to here?
That's exactly what we did. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we started talking to our clients about MVPs, and that's something that we hadn't done previously, but just in case everybody doesn't know, minimal viable product. And that goes back to the marketing roots and making sure that we could do all the marketing things we needed to do on launch, but maybe the about page isn't there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
What's the bare minimum we can launch with? Is
Right.
it 5 pages? Is it 500 pages? Where's the fine line?
Right.
Sometimes it's not even what the client wants. It's like
Right.
what the board will authorize, or
Right.
So
Right. And honestly, some clients weren't into it. Some clients were like, nope, I need my whole website on launch. I'm not, we're not into the MVP idea. So that was fine. But if they were open to it, we can get the website out faster. And that always is very, music to clients' ears. So, we've only done a couple since we have started, offering it as a strategy.
Yeah, that's true. Most of our we've only been doing it, like she said, for about 14 months now, and a lot of our projects take 6-8 months to develop. So not everybody's been on board with let's get this out. And But we've done it enough that I think it's been really good. I think the one thing that sells clients is the minute it's better than what you have now, let's push it. The minute it's better, because you're doing yourself a disservice by putting out something, by this old thing being around that's got inaccurate information, or this design that doesn't represent you anymore, or whatever. So
the other area that really is ripe for iteration is post-launch, where you start analyzing how the workflow is working, how the leads are coming in. If it's not working, we use Hotjar, which is a heat mapping, and that helps us know where the clients are looking, where they're clicking. The users are looking and clicking, and then we've been calling it growth-based design, where if something isn't working or people aren't going where we want them to go, that's the iteration.
Okay, so you're actually iterating the Agile at the marketing level, then you're basically...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we try to be agile throughout the entire engagement. That's one thing we've learned. It has to be any book you read out there tells you, like, every book, it always starts with, just because you do stand-ups, just because you do sprints, doesn't make you agile, right? And secondly, it always tells you that it has to come from top down. It has to be the entire buy-in. You read it, you're like, okay, I get it. So you read enough of those books, and you read them all, and you're like, I get it. But somewhere down the line, where you're actually practicing, you're trying, you're like, oh, I get it. Like, you gotta get the buy-in from the clients, right? You gotta get the buy-in from sales to development to design to everyone has to be on board this thing to understand this continually building process, right? To see how we're refining and iterating. And if you don't have, if one of those legs doesn't have buy-in, then you're just kind of agile. That's kind of the deal.
Which is fine, and I
It
think
is
that's
fine.
where we are too.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of room
Agile-ish.
to go, because we still, again, we have a content before design, just hard stop rule. So we need to have the content written and approved before we can actually design it, because your design is influenced by your content.
Right.
Design crafted words and then plug things into boxes. That's why, we don't use templates. That's not what we do. So we do have some stuff that has to be finalized before it can be moved into the next stage, but it doesn't mean that all the content's written and then all the design is done and then all the development we're doing. Here's the homepage. Now homepage goes to design while content goes back and starts writing interior pages while design moves to development. And then we've also started, you guys want to talk about the pattern stuff?
Sure.
Experience it better.
So we just launched the biggest project I've ever worked on here 2 weeks ago, and we used a pattern library. This is something we're just starting into, and everybody's really liking it. The developers are really on board with it. The designers are on board with it. It didn't touch the client too much this time because we handled a lot of the page building in-house, but we went through all of their content, key to have the content to be able to do this, but we went through all of their content and just established all the different modules that they needed. Bullet lists, hide and reveal,
Event
download,
lists, news modules, photo galleries.
It was like a gallery of like 12 things, I think. Yeah. We built that out in development, and then all of us here used that module library and built out these pages. And we ran into a few things that was like, oh, well, I'm using this module, but I need to do this. And there was a couple of small things like that, but for the most part, in my opinion, maybe you guys
It was like
disagree.
a puzzle, right?
It was a little bit like a puzzle, but for the most part, it fit. As you're like building the content, you're like, okay. And then the developer was working on other QA stuff, and then we'd be like, oh, and so he could pop on and help us if something didn't quite work or whatever.
So how did that look in WordPress itself? Did you guys have short codes that you wrapped around things to make them?
So in WordPress, we had our main, post body content, and then below that was a module dropdown.
Oh.
And so we did a drop down, like I want to do a download module here, download, put in your content, and then you could take a download bracket shortcode and put it where it fell in the body of the page.
Kind of like building blocks, or like a builder, but not a builder.
Yeah, it really
Okay.
helps you say, if you need to move something or adjust something, it's really easy to do. A page can be tweaked pretty easily.
Well, and for your designs, you guys probably wireframed out most of those kind of like patterns that you were talking about. Like you're looking at the content, determining what kind of content you had, what kind of it needed to be, and then creating, like you said, a library.
Yeah, our
for that.
content strategist works with the UX team to design, here's the content and structure that we need it to do. And then we work in Sketch now.
Yes,
so
I mean.
she set up separate artboards for each sort of module that has to
Excellent.
be
Yeah.
designed. So it's all, literally it's one file. And we have the home page, and then we have all these different patterns and modules designed all over here. And it's
things are shown.
Yeah, and Sketch is insane because it can do the responsive right there with it too. So yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
And to be completely honest, the front end wasn't 100% done while we were building.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of like trust that had to happen there because we were building the pages and we were like, when it gets there, we'll go back and look at it. And I mean, honestly, I really think it came together really well. And we're just now starting another project where we're doing the same thing. Details. We're just now starting another project where we're doing the same thing. And I just had a meeting yesterday on the pattern library, and it feels lighter. Like the meeting was like, okay, great, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, then we're going to build the pages. Then building out custom pages and doing whatever, like that, it just felt, the mood felt lighter to me anyways. Yeah. And I think it's just because it's easy.
You've done it now.
Versatile,
yeah.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the important factor here is that with our weekly updates with the client, right? That's part of the key here is the customer collaboration piece. And that while all this is going on with our front end team and our back end team, we were a content team for that week or 2 weeks with us. The client was also there doing the same thing, right? And so by virtue of communicating with the client, talking to them, let them know what to expect, let them know what to see. That really is what makes this whole process whatever. Is what do we do with that or any other plugin or any other tool, whatever, right? All you guys are approaching this any different way because how many ways is going to get? The deal is to talk to the clients, and since we're doing that, they've got the buy-in, right? They know what they're working with. It's not a hide and reveal situation, which is the worst you can possibly get yourself into. Right? Like,
So tell me the process. Client comes to us with a new website. Where do we go from there? This deal is done. Here's how much money I'm going to pay you. I need a new website. Go ahead.
all right, well, if I had my way, how many of you guys have that situation where somebody drops a budget in their lap and they're like, this is what we're building, by the way, just go to town? Does that happen to most people?
That never happens.
So that's never a great thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lock in your budget, you don't want to lock in your scope, and you don't lock in your costs without ever seeing this thing. So typically what we prefer to do is actually talk to the client, but also often that's the truth, right? So we'll get a spec sheet, we'll get a deal that's already been signed. Let's call it $50,000 to deliver something, right? And it's something to do something else. And that's kind of what we're working with.
That's literally what we.
Yeah. So what we try to do is a lot of times then we'll schedule a call with the client. We'll try to put them through our kind of our backlog storyboarding process, right? Where we're going to talk about use cases. We're going to make cards for just you tell I'm stupid.
What? You are not talking about our process at all.
This is what it's club saver.
Oh, I know, but we're talking about WordPress websites right now.
I don't think it matters, right?
No, it's any project work. Any project is fine.
So
It totally matters. That's not how we run WordPress projects.
sure we do.
We do content first. We do a content audit. We send them a survey where they fill it out. And we do a kickoff meeting.
We'll take up for that. Okay.
If you want to hear about Agile, Agile, club servers are a good example.
All
It's
right.
not WordPress.
I will turn the floor to.
So how do you do a WordPress project? Start there.
Okay. Well.
Well, yeah, we send out surveys to our clients so that it gets prepared by the project management, content, and design leads on it. You know, what types of things we want to ask specific to this project and this client and the work that they're doing. And that's their homework survey. And in order for us to kick anything off, they need to fill that up. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes, but it's a lot of valuable information that's in there. Once we have that back, then we schedule a kickoff meeting, and that's a whole team meeting. And I always like to think of teams. We brought up customer collaboration. I think that's extremely important, not just collaboration, but working together as a team. So it's not just the big C, it's the team on the project. So, you know, I'm going to have a PM, I'm going to have design, I'm going to have content, I'm going to have a dev, I'm going to have a client main contact, I might have their business partner, you know, whoever these people are, that's part of the whole overall team. And we're going to be in constant communication with each other as we go through the process.
And sometimes that's like 2 people, and sometimes it's 10 people in the room. So it depends on the scope of the project. And, yeah. Right. So it could be, I know when I started and we do kickoff meetings, and the client who gave a crap about it, but now they're fine.
And I think one of the hardest things at that stage is just really impressing upon the client how much work they really are going to be doing. Because a lot of clients are just like,
Here.
okay,
Yeah.
go do the thing now.
Yeah.
And it's not that at all. I know every single one in here knows that, but I constantly have conversations where it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was going to have to do all of this. I didn't realize I had to do this or that or whatever. And
It's still their content.
yeah, exactly.
In the long run of it, it's still their content.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's what we tell them all the time. We're like, nobody does this business better than you. You gotta meet us halfway. And so
I always laugh about the fact that we can write almost anything on the website, but we can't write your executive bio. Like, we don't know where you went to college, and that stuff takes the longest.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Everything else is.
So,
How does that fit in? Did they slow you down in your process?
Yes.
oh, yes. Chastity just had a project that has been on hold for how many months?
Which one?
Triggers.
How long?
December of last year.
Wow.
They came to us. They, we
Gave us a deposit?
initiated. We gave them all the information, and we said the first thing we need to do. They said we want to do our own content. You can't write it for us. It's very specific to us. We want to do it. Okay, that's no problem at all. We're going to need that before we get started. I went and met with them in person. They come here, talked them through it. They're like, okay, I understand. I've got it. And August of this year, I finally got, okay, we're ready, and we're not going to write our content. Can you write it for us?
Oh.
Okay.
Do you guys put expiration dates in your contracts now?
You
Yeah,
should have.
that I do. Yeah, I did the same thing.
Small enough one that it's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, if it was anything bigger.
Yeah. We call those the ninja clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and they were thankfully, we came in, we finally got everything started, and they straight up said, we know that the delay was because of us. We weren't getting things moving.
Oh, that's good.
Moving, and now we're really excited to get things going. So I hope this is going to be a quick process. Like, absolutely, we're going to need this collaboration. We go back and forth. We need your approval quickly. Like, we'll move quickly, but we're not just going to make it all up. We need this to be a team effort. Definitely, absolutely.
No.
2 weeks, I think, I'll go between responses to things, and I ping them every week. That's another part of our process is we do weekly recaps. Something as simple as, this is what we did this past week, and this is what we're planning to do next week. This is what we owe you, and this is what you owe us. So,
Perfect.
that's constantly in there. We use Teamwork as a platform that we use, and I can put response required tag on it. So when they open it, they can see all these tags that say response required, that I need them to get me something. It's a good visual trigger. So.
And so for some clients on bigger projects, we have a weekly 10-minute phone call, which always is more than 10 minutes. But that's the goal, right? Is you just have a 10-minute check-in on a Friday morning or a Monday morning or whenever it is, so you can tell them what we're working on, what we're waiting on. And then we still do have like the milestone delivery kind of big meetings. Like we've got a homepage design for you, or we've got your initial sort of content that we're. So those things still. All right, so we have a kickoff meeting, and after the kickoff meeting, then how do we go back and plan our work?
Internal planning? We
I
immediately.
think that's the interesting stuff that's changed, I think, us drastically.
Yeah, for us, immediately after kickoff, we try to schedule an internal debrief at the kickoff before everything flies out of our so we all sit down together, everybody who's in the room, talk about, what we all heard, compare notes, and get a game plan together. So we try to do that day of, maybe next day, really no later than that, because I remember my office with a bunch of projects going on. And then we actually work in, we do sprints, and so we sprint plan our design and dev team together every Monday, and that helps us to plan out much smaller tasks. So instead of trying to look at the big overall project and say, how am I going to get from here to here, and it's very big, what are we going to do this week? It's much, much easier. I mean, to me, I know you can't just do sprint planning and be agile, but I think that's a huge part of really getting into the process and being something useful for your team.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, and I think we just started doing this, but I actually don't know, do we have separate, like we create a backlog for each board, for each project, so exactly all the work that goes into each project?
We've got 2 of them that we're piloting, that we're trying that out on, so to sit down, that's my goal with my...
And we use Trello, so we should
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
How many of you guys in the room work on more than 3 projects? Everybody, pretty much? 5? More than 5? That's a lot. So I think as you go on, what you're going to find is like multitasking and multi-projects is almost the enemy of action, right? That's what we're going to struggle with. That's where you're going to find the most difficult time, whether it's WordPress or Angular, any project you're working on. Because again, one of the tenets of doing this stuff is kind of leaving some stuff open-ended, or we don't know. Something that requires focus. So if you're just trying to get through your day to not getting your task list because you got a deadline on Friday, so you just context switch to your next project next week. That's where we're trying to develop our own flavor actually, because as an agency, that's kind of our life. Right? And so the stuff that Kenny's talking about now, switching over to individual boards for projects, that's what we're trying to move towards, because it has to happen or is it even further down?
Well, doesn't that define kind of like how many projects you actually can work on at once? Because you've only got so large of a team.
Sure.
So you can either say like, okay, then this particular project is going to be in design in a 2-week Scrum or something of that nature, and then this one over here is going to be.
Sure, and that's the fun part, because once you start on that path, and you're looking at an awful long like waterfall now, right? If you're looking at, hey, if you're planning out concept phase, design phase, it's dev, it's QA. I mean, that's something you guys have all probably seen, right? So it's nothing you guys, what you guys do on the team.
Yeah.
So what we do is we try to incorporate little bits of Agile within each step, because by default we have to do that, right? Like, there's no way that we can have everybody working on 50-hour projects with the same point.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is more of do as I say, not as I do kind of situation. That's what we're trying to grow and evolve to. That's been our biggest barrier of entry. Our roadblock has been just that much focus.
We can't even plan half days for most of our team. I mean, we can't say you're working on this for morning and this afternoon. It's basically like this is, well, some of them, I mean, now and then, but a lot of times we'll have one developer who's got, 15 minutes on this, a half hour on this, 2 hours on this.
Wow.
Well, because we have, so you have to remember we've got 22 marketing clients that we support on a retainer basis, and they have web dev work. So if we're doing like landing page optimization and A/B testing, and we need to tweak things that to influence where we're going to move a form from bottom to top, it's like development.
Does it become more like a ticket system at that point, or?
So that's kind of how we treat it. So each card, we create cards in Trello that go in the backlog. That are stuff that needs to be done, and Chastity organizes all of this. And so we have a weekly backlog, we have a master backlog, and the team, they sit in sprint planning and fill up their sprint, which is a week's time of what they can get done. So we know they estimate each card will take so much time, and then they fill up their week cards.
And then in that sprint planning is where we say, X developers are already full, but these are the, PM priorities that we know that the clients are expecting. And so that's when that little bit of like refinement happens, where it's like,
negotiation. Yes.
This is going to have to wait.
And it helps with the team, for them to be able to, we try to have projects where most everybody can work on something. It's not like it's mine and it's only mine and nobody else, develops on my project. Like, I'm completely full, and absolutely, if you're free, please, you can do this page this week. You can take care of that. And that really helps with a team environment that, I don't know, everybody has that opportunity, but, that's handy.
Yeah. Going back to planning, I was going to say, for me personally, and I don't know if everyone is doing the same thing, but I don't really kick into like granular planning mode until we get to a certain point with the client, because a lot of the upfront work, a lot of the strategy, design, that kind of stuff is what has the most risk involved for the client taking forever.
Right.
And so that's where it's like, I could say all day, like, design is going to take 2 weeks, and I really don't have control over that, because if they take the design back and sit on it for more than that, or, whatever.
Right, then you've got to fill all those tasks in with other things from other projects.
Right, exactly. So once we get to a certain point, we have our wireframe, we have our design, we're starting on our resource library, or that's our newest thing that I was just talking about. Once we have our patterns getting going, then is when I feel the most comfortable to really say this is how the next 4 weeks is going to go, because I have more control over it. Because it's our internal stuff.
Yeah, and we understand our own velocity and what resourcing is.
So that's just what I've been personally doing. But
yeah, we love to. I mean, every client wants to see a timeline, and then never is the timeline. And I don't care. I've been doing this for 12 years now. The timeline is never delayed by me, ever.
Right.
It is always the client that
Yeah.
delays that. And so whenever somebody says, "How fast can you get this done?" you tell me honestly, because
Right.
I can get it done tomorrow, but you're gonna delay it.
Yeah.
So we only had one client, I think, since we've been doing this, and it's FPM, who have been. We send her something, it's approved, it's edited, it's sent back, even including the neurosurgeon she works with and the doctors, she gets them to edit their stuff, and we're like, what? Like 12 hours. So their site was designed and launched in I think 6 weeks, if even might have been 4. It was very fast.
Wow.
Was their content workflow look like?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a doctor's multi-unit doctor's office, and so the site structure is pretty simple, and the content's fairly straightforward. They work on auto injuries exclusively, so talk about traumatic brain injuries, whiplash and et cetera, et cetera.
And we definitely did.
We did MVP with them. I think we launched with like 4 or 5 pages. It was basically make an appointment, period.
Well, that's the most important thing is to get that intake. And
We launched it with a bunch of crappy stock photography, and then we scheduled a photo shoot with them after the site even had launched, I think, or maybe even the week of, or something ridiculous like that. And we just replaced it all with real stock, with real photography, and we added. We had a page almost every month of stuff that we know is highly searched keyword terms, and so we looked at stuff that's come in search volume trends, and we looked at rankings and where they're at, and say, oh, you need a page about, one we just launched last month was like, I don't know, oh, you're in your eyesight when you have like, you're dizzy after, car accident or something. People search dizzy after car accident. Oh, okay.
What's your minimum for launching?
What do you mean?
Well, you said that you put up like 3 pages.
Totally up to the client. I mean, it's going to be, I would literally launch a 1-page website. As long as there's a form where people can get in touch with somebody, I'd be happy to launch a 1-page.
You mean like a call to action?
You just as you go, it's live.
And add
you get
pages.
feedback, and then you just go with it.
Yep. Add stuff to staging, get them to approve, push live.
I did one. I did one for a race that's actually coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And we launched with a splash page. And then, we get 3 important pages. We're ready. They're approved. They're done. And then we add the 3 important pages. And, then I have a little bit more robust site. And then you would grow and grow. And, just over probably about 6 months or so, we were able to add into it. They have a full blown.
How do you incorporate that with your Agile process? Because that almost seems like completely separate. Or is that just part of your?
So that client's like that client is in a very weird situation financially. So it's not but like the client, the medical doctors, they're on a monthly retainer. And so we just have a certain amount of time we give to them every month, basically. And so we build we're going to do 2 pages for you. We're going to do 4 pages for you because we know how long it takes to write and shoot. But we need photography to find stuff.
Same with IDNA. We did an MVP. It was a pretty, it was a bulky MVP, but we have a retainer with them as well. And
most clients are looking just to get a site out there immediately to get started, and then you're right. You can build on that.
Yeah. So what I normally do is I give them a recommendation just based on our experience, doing this for people. I say these are the pages that you absolutely need. And the smaller clients are more open to it. I've noticed that the bigger and the more corporate you go, it's like, oh God, we couldn't launch without this bio because this person's going to freak out if this bio is in here or whatever. So it's more political, but
that's very true. Yeah.
And Andy wrote a great piece about
working with committees.
Because once you get into the more corporate clients, then you're working with a board.
And no one ever reads those bios. Ever.
No cares about those bios. It's
so I just based on the thousands of Google Analytics that I have access to, which is probably 70 properties, you're wrong. People read them.
Yeah, some people
do.
Our 3 partners are the 3 most searched, 3 top in the top 10 pages on our website by far.
Well, it makes sense for an agency though.
No, it's our clients too, though.
I mean, clients looking at your sites to determine.
No, I mean for our clients' sites, it's the same story. Yeah, they are. People are looking at principals. Who's going to be my contact? How is she qualified? Yeah. And doctors especially.
Okay, yeah, I guess that does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I used to work at a well plant over in Tampa, and our team page, which is all of the brokers, they were looking at rank number 1 a lot more.
It's more than you expect.
There's all those poachers. Come in and poach the people.
You're probably right.
Send them a little LinkedIn invitation.
Actually, that's actually a good point in not making custom post text for team members. Because we always do custom post text so that they each have their own page, which makes them incredibly searchable. We should do one page.
Yeah.
But then just a little bit in competitive industry.
I'm sorry, it's Joe, right?
Joseph,
sorry. And you say you work with the wealth
the well fund group.
So it's really interesting. I guess what we all find is that a lot of businesses are really person-to-person businesses, and we happen to be individuals. So how does that look? Which is an awesome first step too, which is individuals and interactions. That's, I think, again, I keep going back to this board. Is that it's really interesting. You go out and start doing research, whether you want to follow Scrum, you want to follow Kanban, Lean, XP, DSEM, whatever you want to follow, right? Those are just kind of like best practices, best guides. The third thing you always read in all these books, they always tell you is that there's not one size fits all for everything. You kind of come your own thing. And that's a big one to me, and that's what I've always worked really hard with our team on, is that like we might do sprints, we might do all these things, but at the end of the day, like this is the key, right? Like there's actually a follow-up to this, which is like individual interactions over processes and so like it's not that wasn't important, but we value this more, and it's really interesting. So Jim and I were just talking about how when you're solving problems, when you have these issues, people have a tendency to go in a bubble, right? They're like, all right. And then I'm going to present this to the client's going to like it, they're going to hate it. At the end of the day, it's so much easier to just like tap the data on the shoulder, tap the client on the shoulder. And again, if you have the buy-in with customer collaboration, you guys are working together on this whole thing, right? So again, like I think if this is your starting point for looking at Agile, or if this is just trying to see how the agency does it, like these are the big 4 takeaways that I would definitely take.
Yeah. Well, I think the big one too, which we started talking about a little bit, is this responding to change piece, which to me is 2 things. One, if somebody has a really good idea and you're already 2 months into a build, you're punished for that, right? Like, oh no, here's our scope, here's the work we're doing for you, sorry, this is it. Well, I'm sorry, this idea just came to me in the shower or whatever, and it's a great idea. So in a traditional sort of process, you're punished for that. In our process, we say, that's great, let's iterate, let's add that to the backlog, or let's put this into the works wherever it's going to fit, or however we can do that. From a marketing perspective, and the clients who are on retainer with us, digital, there's like one thing for certain, is that it's going to change. Like Google's going to, there's a new algorithm update every 3 months. There's something that's going to drop your rankings or change how users are behaving. Or, man, we designed this site, it's beautiful, but nobody's clicking what we thought they would be clicking. We can change that. We can move things around. We can, move things to where they need to be and get things where they need to be. So, or there's a new technology, or you're going to integrate a new CRM, and we need to incorporate that into whatever we're doing. Or Gravity Forms issues an update and kills everything that we're
I think one of the hardest parts for me is the difference between retainer clients and milestone project, fixed rate clients. I don't know if you guys have both or deal exclusively in one, but retainer clients, we can do that all day long. It's just moving stuff around, taking stuff off the board, putting stuff on the board. It's like, okay, we got this. But when it's harder to respond to change with a fixed rate. And I just had a client who actually ran into a content issue where, oh yeah, sure, we can write. Same thing that happened with triggers, and then they got in a room. I made them lock themselves in a room because we were on a deadline. And literally 4 hours later, they were like, can you write our homepage for us? And yeah, we can write your homepage for you. So what we had to do was, I had to go and play, mix and match, plug and play with the scope that we had already agreed upon. And I had to say, can I take off X and Y to put Z in? And we had to rework all of that. And that's far more labor intensive for me and the client. For both of us, it's, it's a tedious task than, if they're on retainer and just shuffle.
Yep.
So, but it can be done, but it's just...
And that's a common solution that we found with a lot of digital agencies that do WordPress-based or marketing-based web development, is that they kind of just say, if this is your defined set of features or scope, or we were saying we're going to do 10 pages and you want to add things, we can, but you're going to have to take something out as well. Otherwise, we're not going to meet the deadline, we're going to the budget. Right.
Or you give us more money.
Yeah, exactly. So there has to be some sort of something that's fixed in the process. It's not just an ongoing iterating mess. It's we have to define, we're either going to work on this for 4 weeks, or we're only going to work on it to this amount of work that's done, or we're going to work on it for this amount of time, which we don't talk about.
Are you guys finding that the folks that are asking for the milestone-based, project-based, very windfall type projects like that, the very specifically time-based projects, are those the ones that are coming more from the old world and not realizing that the product they're buying from you is a changing product that's constantly evolving, and that the value in it is...
The one she's talking about is Bankers Financial, and so they have a big internal team that do their work. They're their only outside vendor, I think, and so they just come to us and are like, this is exactly what we need, and we'll take it over, but we don't have time to do it. And so that's kind of what it is. They're usually larger organizations that have teams, and they just need our specialized brand of design.
Yeah. Well, I would say too, on change with web dev, I would quote Andy, and early and often really, really helps. As much as you can be in communication with the client, showing them what you're doing, talking to them about what you're doing, so that they realize, very early on whether this is what they were expecting or not, and have those conversations. That's helps a lot.
Yeah.
To be able to turn around.
I used to call it the ugly baby. So, everybody's like this little ugly baby when they're born, and then they get really cute for a while, like when you start seeing your home. This is gonna be awesome when they're a toddler, and then they get this like teenager aspect where everything's like wonky, and you still haven't QA'd in certain browsers, and things are like off, and your content's incomplete, or it's all warm or stuff from bed. And then it comes out the other side, and it's this beautiful, full grown, like mature adult.
Well adjusted.
Yeah. But you have to, you have to sort of be a part of that parenting and grooming and bringing that thing into its full fruition. So.
You mentioned that you don't talk timeline with your.
No, we don't talk time.
What do you
We
mean
talk
by
timeline.
hours?
So we'll say 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Oh, you don't-
we'll have
you
it done
won't
for you on
mention-
Thursday, but we don't
Okay.
say it's going to take 10 hours.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then they hyper focus on
The hours.
the minute.
Yeah.
How are some of you guys estimating now? Does anyone have any feedback on how you guys are, the client comes up to you and says, hey, build me PC.
What do you mean if it's complex software? You got to look at it. Other than that, just by doing the process over and over again, you kind of just know, okay, this is. If you got content, it's going to take this. If you don't have content, it's going to take this.
Right. And are you pretty successful with being on budget and on time?
Yeah.
That's pretty great. Yeah. That's like I didn't find that to be true in my case because, like for example, like if you ask somebody how long does it take you guys to read all Harry Potter books, right? If you've read them 5 times, your answers would be way accurate. If you've read them 0 times, you don't know how to read, then your answers are way on this other end. Now, if you've read one book, the first book, and you're like, all right, based on my information, I read the first Harry Potter book. How many? 7?
Yeah.
I have not read them. If I tell you that I read the first book, it took me 1 month, then logic might tell me that it'll take me 7 months to read Harry Potter. But holy hell, if you get to that last Deathly Hallows book, the thing is like 5 times less all the other books.
It's a different reading level.
Your ass was completely outdoors. So that's what I find to be true in my situation early on before we went this way. Because the customer could say something very simple like, listen, I want a 3-page site.
Now we say, this is going to be really simple.
Yeah.
always.
Really easy.
Customers need to log in and see document B. All right, great. So login is a great example we like to use all the time because a login is really never just a login, right? Because it's like, what do you guys want to do about password recovery? Are we doing tokens? Are we doing sessions? How are we approaching it? So like that, So my point is that like every project we take, I feel like we might have done at least 70% of the things over and over again. I have a good range of estimate. But for some reason, like based on how many variables, how many complexities there are there, I could be under budget. That'd be a great day. Or like stuff I just didn't see will hit me at the end of the trip, and all of a sudden I'm here till midnight, 3 days in a row, right? I'm trying to make this happen because customers come first, right? So like, that's what I was trying to use as reference. Like it's like that. That's really why when you look at granularity of estimates. If I were to ask the same question to my Harry Potter guys, and you guys all give the same answers now, I'm like, hey guys, how many minutes will it take you to read Harry Potter? Drop the mic, right? Like, what are you gonna say? Right, so it's kind of that relationship. So how do you want to look at your time versus timeline versus what you're guaranteeing? Again, that's all directly proportional to the complexity of the project. So if you know for sure that you've done a header 1 million times, right, and you can estimate a minute, the more hours you do it. So that when you have that granular, you have control. Go for
Then
it.
the client's like, oh, I want to put these 4 social media icons and a search bar, but the search bar's got to open in a modal, and then you have to show search results in the modal, and then
I want type ahead, and I want it to come out of these particular things, and these have to be weighted more.
And then you have the funny thing where it's like, how do you even estimate development until you've seen the design stuff or the UX that's coming? But we have to tell a client, here's what it's going to cost, period.
So that's
So instead, we design 2 budgets. Designing.
I think you asked early on about kind of how all that flows into our Agile process, and that it really kind of goes with a cyclical nature, right? Of like estimating, confirm the estimate, go back to client, talk about it, do we understand that correctly, go back to the server, check again. So it's all the cyclical nature of just whether it's fixed bid, whether or not we have a maintenance client, or we try to get this process of just rolling in early, right? Figuring out what that's going to look like, knowing that we might be wrong, we might be off, but the thing is we're talking about it ahead of time. I personally am a big fan of giving ranges, right? Like, oftentimes it makes sense to give upper end ranges because the clients know what's going on. But really, if you just say, hey, in my experience, to build 1 page, I don't know, let's call it a page with an image and text. Maybe it'll take me 5 to 10 hours, right? Given the complexity of the layout, how many divs we're talking about, whatever your specialty is, you know a good percentage of what you're doing. Give them a range, because that's where you build that buy-in with the client, right?
Yeah, but if we're not talking hours, how do we price that?
We talk about price, we talk about half weeks, whatever your unit of measurement is, that's how you should be working. So
Have you guys been switching more towards value-based pricing?
So we do all value-based.
So the value of the client, of what they're actually getting and turning it into units? Or?
Yeah, so we know it's going to make for their marketing. That's fairly easy because we know what our actions are going to result in. So we know this effort is going to result in this many leads, and they're all going to be highly qualified, or this effort and growing your email list, low qualified. Honestly, we just get what we can for projects, and we know whether it's going to be worth it and within our abilities or not. And it's a lot of the early sales conversations are real general and that sort of thing. Well, here's my budget, and we're going, oh, nope. Somebody comes to us with a 300-page website and says, I have $20,000. No. Versus somebody comes to us with a 300-page website and says, I have $60,000. Okay, now let's talk about what that looks like and how many are unique and how many patterns are we building.
And I kind of feel like we've been working on our end, mostly Chastity, has been working on that very loose kind of definition of the threshold. Like, this feels like a $15,000 website. This feels like a $20,000 website, and what's usually associated with those tickets. Those those big numbers.
But so much of that is unknown too. It's in the client.
It is hard.
Like, in how much they accept and how much pushback they get. And it's amazing the clients who are really eager to let you be an expert are the people who get so much more for their money because you're just moving forward constantly, versus the people who are coming back with revisions on everything that you're doing, and then they get the bare minimum because this is all we could fit into.
Well, they're fighting the process, you find?
What?
Do you think they're fighting the process more?
I just think people don't like to be. They don't like to lose control sometimes, and especially when you're working with like a mid-level marketing person who knows more than you do. They don't want to. They want to. Some people need to feel like they put their stamp into something, or that they. I don't know.
Is that kind of where you feed in more at the customer collaboration point, where you actually make them feel like they're more of a team?
We would love to, yeah. I think for the most part, most of our clients are pretty awesome and gung-ho, but every now and then we have clients who just don't want to work together.
I mean, you're going to run different personal types of network. Right? Yeah. So again, it's knowing what you're trying to go for, not just simply saying, no matter what happens, you're part of my sprint planning, or else. Because then you defeat the whole purpose of this whole thing, right? You're just saying you're sacrificing a tool, you're sacrificing a behavior for the greater good, right? That's the biggest thing. So part of this whole thing is embracing it. And that's something that, I don't know if you guys, but we never like that. We don't like uncertainty yet, right? These guys
are like, oh.
Yeah, they're just for metrics, for time on stuff, and uncertainty can't be an enemy. But there's no getting rid of that, right? When you start a project, you have to estimate what you can do. Like, spend 3 months on due diligence on estimating a project without getting paid. That's all the conversation like getting paid right now. But like, do that before you get a really good handle and the whole thing, and then you can accurately say, I can do this, whatever. The greater complexity.
We're not at this stage.
That's right. So the greater complexity, the greater the kind of certainty at the very beginning. That's what, I mean, how many of you guys are like judge, jury, and execution or one? They solo freelancer, that's everything.
So I have been,
yeah, right. So you guys will feel a lot of that, right? You guys are. And all clients are saying, hey, Joseph, I want to do ABC, right? The next 2 questions are always how much and how long, right? That's always what they're asking. Unless you have a really good handle with ABC, that number you give them has a variance. Like, if you look at a graph, right, and going this way is going to be time versus complexity. You start the project early on, and the first step of the very project is discovery, right? Whatever number you give them has a code of certainty that starts from 0 to some number of years based on how much time you spent on discovery, right? That code of certainty as you go on the project goes down, right? But so the point is, if you have a median in the middle of that, and you give them some number, let's call it $10. That $10 has a swing complexity of 10 to 0, 10 to the upper limit of that, 20 whatever it is. So of course, every number you give them in terms of cost, every number you give them in terms of time, is going to have that baked in. So $10, $10 or $20, not going to break the bank. When you start talking about $500, you start talking about $5,000, $10,000, you have a real issue in your hands, right? And then, as we all try to do the best job we possibly can, you go along the project, you try to deliver, and you start hitting some roadblocks. You're like, let me do this thing for them. And so you finally have a big reveal at some point with the client, and at that point, you're faced with a really difficult decision. It's like, how far along are we? And they go back to the document. It's like, hey, show me the scope document, or show me this, and then you go like, okay, I'm good. I put all that stuff down. You read it, you realize that there's a lot between the lines that you just didn't account for because you didn't know nearly as much as you did at this point as you do now looking back. So that is a big major tenet of this whole thing is, again, embracing that uncertainty and just being upfront and honest with the client. It's like, if you've done it a million times over, to your point, no big deal. Because that's not what this tries to solve, right? Because if you know what you're doing, if you build G.I. Joes all day long, and you build the same, you name the guy, whatever, over and over again, then you're in good shape, right? Rinse and repeat all day long. Don't even go Agile. You're set. But the problem comes in, and it's every project you do, that's why you have a different swing how much you're charging people, because there's different quantities. Hopefully you know 90% of what you're doing. And to be honest with you, a lot of times we're learning stuff every day, every new project. Oh wow, we didn't know we did this there, or this could do that, or maybe we're using a different media library for this, or maybe we're using, modern tribes event calendar versus, WooCommerce's plugin, right? So we have a good handle, as I'm sure you guys do. Again, there's a certain amount of uncertainty, and assuming you can cross that bridge with client earlier on, I think better off you guys are going to be.
And I think there are a lot of knowns.
Yeah.
You think of it as an equation. There are a lot of things, whether it's a whole entire project or it's pieces of it, and that's part of what Agile, I think, helps with, and what we do whenever we're able to, break it down instead of trying to look at the whole big project. When we're breaking it down and looking at these smaller pieces, over time, we're able to say, out of these 10 things that we do in design, 5 of them are almost exactly the same, almost every project. That becomes my known. I now have data on how long it took us to do this. I can get an average over projects. I can say, I can get a good feel for those 5, and those aren't part of what I need to do with. The other 5 now are my unknown, piece of this particular project. And maybe one project you get only deals with those first 5. You got the design portion down. I know what that is. I've got good data and backup for that. But yes, I think trying to sort out the things that you do know, the things you are comfortable with, the things that you do have data on are good, and get those out of the way, because you can set those aside and then work on them.
That's a very verified statement from Chas, because what Chas did during the transition period was actually go through that, right? Because your immediate reaction early on when you're first taking this stuff on is you're like, well, I'm reading all this stuff, I get it, but what's the point, right? What's the point of estimating and planning this out if I know that 3 months on the road, I'm not going to know this stuff? That's kind of a weird natural reaction. And you just want to toss it in the air and be like, we'll get to it when we get to it. Clients will be happy, but that's not really the case. The case is, Kenny's team has a wonderful job with, her inbound team has a list of that represent pretty much 80% of all the day-to-day activities, right, that we sell to our clients. Chas worked with inbound team to kind of come up with historic numbers on, well, every time you post to Twitter, or every time you do research for a blog, what do those numbers look like? And they start creating this menu, right? Because, again, the whole thing is, just like any equation, solve for what you know, right? Because you want to handle that. You want to get that number as high as possible, 90%. Because if you have 10% uncertainty, you're looking pretty good. If you have 90% uncertainty, you're not looking so hot, right? So, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a big thing. Yeah, that's a really important thing. And she went through countless hours, has got data back for a year or so, just looking at normal stuff we do. We're trying to do the same thing on demos. How many times did you create a login wall? How many times did you use a Mapbox plugin? What does it look like? Stuff that we know we rinse and use. And that's really good behavior. So if we're talking about specific behaviors, take that one home too, because you guys want to know. The more you know about yourself,
and that goes into tracking time, right? So we spend a lot of time organizing our recording of data. And so for us, with as many people as we have, but even before we merged, when we each had 10 or so, I spent a lot of time determining how we were going to track time in Harvest. I don't know what you guys use, if you track time at all, but your time is all you have. It's your money, it's your resource. And so even if your client knows nothing about that, you should be tracking what you're doing internally. I think it's a personal.
I knew that was coming.
You might not want to know.
Yeah.
But I think you don't realize where you're losing that time and where you're spending that time, and you can then build that into a better estimate next time you do it. So,
How granular do you guys get on your time tracking?
I like that. Yeah,
well, because we have the connection between Trello and Harvest, and we can actually track time to a specific card. When we get that, we're looking at an individual sprint, and I might have 6 things that I'm doing on this project for this week, 3 in design and 3 in dev. Well, whenever I look on Harvest, I have a bulk of design, but because I'm tracking with that individual card, I can look and see exactly, it tracks the actual information of the Trello card, I can see exactly what those tasks are. So it really depends on how granular you make your cards in Trello. So I can be very, very specific. I can make one big card that says, develop homepage. And then it's a little more challenging, like how long did it take me to develop a homepage versus, doing a header, you can really divide it up and that gives you a little more. So,
Should we talk about tools?
Sure, yeah,
How we do
definitely.
that? Yeah, so we talk about Trello. Are you guys all familiar with Trello? What that is? It's free. We actually, this should be on camera, but we do use the free version.
That's fine.
We could upgrade, but it does everything that we need it to do on the free version.
Yeah.
So I think
What do you get, like 2 integrations with it, I think?
I think we have 3 or 4.
Yeah, we get 3. I know
Yeah.
we're doing the same thing. We have Slack connected to ours and a couple
Yeah.
of other stuff, so.
And it doesn't, I think they actually designed their product poorly to make it that easy for us to just work around there. But that said, so we use Trello for organizing all of our work. Everything we do as a task is a card, and then each person has a column. So we have Adam and Jeff and Darren and Chris. So each column is how much work they can get done in a week. Trello, we have integrated in Agile. It's a Scrum for Trello, I think it's called. It's a plugin. It allows you to put numbers into the titles of your Trello cards. If you put it in brackets,
even in parentheses, it's your estimate, brackets is
it actual? Okay, so if you put a number in parentheses, it makes it a little blue icon at the top with that number inside it, which is how much time you've estimated for that card. So during sprint planning, they go through all the cards and all the devs sit and designers sit at a table together and they estimate out how long it's going to take to do these things. So 3 or a 6 or a 2 or however many hours it'll. And then we have Harvest, which is our time tracking software. Harvest links directly into Trello. So when a developer opens a card to start working on it, they can actually click track time right on their card in Trello. It'll link them into the Harvest project and tasks that they're working on. Our tasks are less granular. So we just have development would be a task, or design would be a task, or content. And then, so they track time for the card. When they're done working on that card for the day, they go up into the title and they put it in brackets. So it took me, 6.2, right, hours. So then you can immediately look at this whole board of cards and you can see the dark blue numbers are 3 and the light blue number next to it is 2.2. That card's just about complete. Maybe it's even done. If it's done, they actually move it into a different column. So this goes into the review column that we. So we can actually get a really good visual of where cards are at, how complete they are, how close to being done they are. And we can also see how much time each person has planned for their week. So we want to get them close to 30. So we can see Jeff's got 27 hours, but if you look in the light blue number, because it actually puts a number at the top of their column as well. So it'll show you how many hours they have estimated in their column, and then it'll show you how many hours they have completed. So you'll see that they have 27 hours estimated, but 4 of those are already completed, so he's actually kind of light. He's only got 23 hours in his column. So we know some of those will bleed high, some of them will come in low, whatever that is against that.
Do you guys typically do like 2-week sprints or 1-week sprints?
So our development design team, go ahead.
Yeah, design development is on 1 week, and our inbound is on twice a month.
Okay.
Because our retainers are monthly based.
Makes sense,
so
yeah.
We start on the 1st of the month, and then we plan again on the 6th.
Do you find that switching to Agile has really helped you guys as far as like not having as many meetings as you used to?
Agile is all about the meetings.
Yeah.
We have more meetings. But I think the meetings are helpful. Before it's easy to be in your own little world at your desk, in your zone, doing what you're doing, and then look up and all of a sudden, 3 days have gone by and you haven't talked to anybody about what you're working on. So, I know we have meetings and we try not to get into meeting overload, but we always say, just sit down. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, get together and talk about it. We all live in a digital world.
I think
we all like to talk via text and Slack, but just look at somebody and talk
15
about
minutes
it.
every day, we have to stand up face to face, which has been huge.
Okay.
Things that,
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've
So-and-so
found.
is sitting here waiting on something from somebody who's sitting across the room from him, and she doesn't know he's waiting on it until they get to stand up in the morning. And he's like, no, it's totally done. I just need to fill in the blank. And she's like, it's literally been in my inbox. You could have just said something before.
How do you keep those meetings like that organized and straightforward? So they
Now
don't go
without
too
trying-
long.
Now without trying to see what fits our team, right? Because, again, if you're just reading from scripts, they'll tell you all you want to do is you don't want to have anybody be the number one. It's not supposed to be a status movement, right? It's not supposed to be status. It's the number one rule. So you're supposed to have this collaboration, so you create always talking to each other. It sounds great, and so you get everybody in the room, and everybody's like status line, right? So we kind of try a couple different things. The day we keep it really simple. Again, it's like what did you do yesterday? Your planned day, and I'm like, because that's a critical
Okay.
thing.
Or is there anything in
And
risk?
What
really-
we find is that a lot of blocks, Jim, we were talking this at the board meeting. It's really interesting how many developers will want an engineering solution. Right? I'm in my thing, I think how I'm doing it, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm gonna find it. It might take 3 hours, it might take 5 hours, but gosh, I'm gonna do it.
6 months.
That's right. and I won't say it happens all the time, but there have been many times where during these stand-up meetings, somebody will just say something, and Chris, for example, will just say, "Oh, yeah, I just did something similar to that on previous project. Here you go, fork it off, and they're to the races." Saved us I don't know how much time, and what I guess, sorry, weird tangent is, even before we knew what we were doing, and I argue that we're getting better, and we kind of know what we're doing now. When we first started, just by implementing behaviors, being Agile-ish, taking structures, Chas has data that she's compiled for us that shows just a huge uptick in our business in terms of being under budget. Out of 20 projects we looked at last Tuesday, I think only 2 are over budget, and they're only over budget by less than 10%. Something like that. Is that wrong? How much? I might be embellishing something here. It's a big argument. Yeah, but the point is, oh yeah, that one was, sorry.
We don't need to pull up the numbers, that's fine.
But there's definitely a benefit to that, guys. So even,
No, it has been huge. The difference in what's on budget and not on budget has changed a lot.
So do you guys use freelancers at all? And like, if you guys do like.
Not really. We do in a couple. If we need a specialized skill that we don't have in house, like a .NET developer.
yeah, there's a project right now we're using the developer as a freelancer, and we put them through the same plan. In fact, it's really interesting because I guess I'm de facto managing this project as a project manager of this project, and all the core team is not even my core team, right? So all we do is the same thing. We're just going through the same principles of getting the client on board. And I was upfront with the client. This is a contractor. Wow. Let's bring everybody to the table every Monday. When we show them the Trello, oh, that's another thing. Trello is really good to get your clients to buy into that as well, right? Because then if you use the Kanban style, you'll see like in progress, doing, done, sprint ready, backlog, all these things. And that's what we do. In fact, I just did one before this meeting today. So looking at it, it's like, this is what's in progress from which developers and where's that going? So even though these people have never met each other, there are 2 freelancers, one that's mine, one's from a third-party agency. We're working like, so far, like super harmoniously, right? Because we're talking about it, we're looking at what's in progress, who's doing what, and just that 15-minute meeting makes a little difference. So I'm sorry, I don't know the point of the question.
That's interesting.
I forgot, I lost track of it. I got
Do
my
you hire freelancers?
Yes.
I work for a small company, so like, we use freelance.
Yeah.
And like, we're gonna start doing like content stuff, and so I'm gonna do like freelance work.
Oh yeah.
So I was just like wondering like how you would, because we do the scrums and Kanban boards and all
Sure,
that stuff, and the it's, to us it's just one in the room. So
Really?
Yeah,
You're not feeling a good synergy? So global synergy with all that stuff?
No, synergy is stuff like Hoshin and Six Sigma and all those horrible words, those nasty things.
I mean, I would say on the couple of projects that I've been working with Zulian a little bit with that do have freelancers, get them involved. Like make them part of the sprint. Get them to sign up on Trello if you have a Trello board, and get them on the board. So get them as involved as you can to make them as much part of the team as possible. In my
And to be honest, this client that's working with us, we don't do .NET development. They are here for our process because they saw all this stuff and how successful it's been. And they knew that even if we had to pull in a freelancer to do the actual work, they still wanted it run. It's been a selling point to clients.
What do you think has been the one of your projects that has kicked you over to that viewpoint? Because I know you guys did the St. Pete website,
Yeah,
like
that
the
was
city.
not Agile by any stretch.
Yeah, I knew it wouldn't be because of the boards and the committees and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but-
well, it was also before, we launched that before, probably 3 years ago.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit older. What do you mean that it's been successful that?
one of your projects that's been very successful that has really kind of like put you guys on the map for that kind of stuff.
Does anybody Cup Saver? Does anybody Cup Saver around town?
Yeah.
It's like a restaurant dining.
Yeah.
So many people say that's what they're. But anyway, yeah, I think that was one of the ones because we recognized early on that the complexity level and the uncertainty in the beginning of the project was very large. So we went full bore by the board. That's what
This was not
early
WordPress,
on.
yeah.
It wasn't WordPress, but so the process was talking about listen to these user stories. The guys came in and said, listen, we want to build a restaurant referral program. We're going to break off payments to people. So if you sign up so-and-so, there's would be like downline, but it's not affiliate marketing. And we sell restaurants. Right, well, this is what they're selling us.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, we see all these red flags, not red flags, but like just what's going on, unknowns. So yeah, that's what one project I think worked really well, and I was really sold after that because like I said, we did buy the book, we did a planning session of the whole corporate planning session, every buzzword you can think of that you read about, we threw it all in there and tried. And it went pretty well. I mean, I wasn't really over budget, but
Yeah, but it's only over budget because we weren't allowed to take things away. Like the sales process didn't match the Agile methodology, and that's something we struggled with, was that he had promised them all the bells and whistles, and here's for this budget. And even though we got close to that, and Zooey was like, listen, this is where we're at, they told me I could get all this. And so it wasn't crazy over budget by any stretch of the imagination, so it wasn't a huge deal, and they're still a great client of ours who come back to it. And so the goodwill was there. It wasn't a huge. It was early.
it
It was very early, yeah.
It was good. It was very good. All the things that we tried seemed to work really well. Again, looking back at it, when successful, it wasn't just necessarily HPA, but again, if I look back at it, it's like it's really these 4 things that really worked well.
But I think Eckerd, we just launched, are you familiar with like the Eckerd Connects, they're called now, Eckerd Kids organization? They do all the foster,
Yeah, I've done work for them.
yeah, so they manage all the foster programs, workforce development,
Juvenile justice. Yeah, they
Family
collect up
Everything
government.
based.
Yes.
Yeah.
They collect up government contracts from all over the country to support different programs in those different silos.
Yeah, and they do it in like 20 states, so they have like an incredibly huge website with a lot of things, and they paid us all up front, 100%, and had a very strict deadline. So it was like this really high pressure, and then they were under all this public scrutiny for all kinds of financial things that were going on, and so it was this weird position for us to be in, where like we had to deliver. Like it had to launch last Wednesday, regardless of whether it was ready. So if you go look at it now, there are pages that are not ready, which I haven't even reviewed it yet because it only comes to me when it's done, and it's not done yet. So, but the client was really on board with weekly meetings, being on phone calls, talking about what's getting done, getting us stuff when we needed it for the most part, understanding when we had a hurricane that this might have changed either the timeline or what we were able to launch with as being finished, that sort of thing. So
They were a very tough client, but they were also very hands off. They were like, the higher level guy was very hands off. He was like, we're going to do this, but he wasn't like all up in my business, like asking me a bunch of questions or like micromanaging. He was just like over in his office, like, make that website happen, right? And looking back, that helped us go a lot faster to not have like the constant, needling from somebody who's.
But that was a good one, I think, where we had a lot of moving parts, and all the different touched every single person in our office. It touched.
Yes.
We had everything. It made it nice to be able to plan things that ran new and
Somebody bored? Is everybody all right?
How do you record the lessons you sort of learn?
Oh, Chastity, this is particularly good for you.
It is.
I know we went each other out, but this one is good.
Well, I mean, for me, I use data, so I mean, we do try to have a retro at the end of a given project, what worked well, what didn't work well, if we went over budget, why did we go over budget, what were we trying to process, so we try to talk it out. A lot of that is really just like in the moment learning, so the whole team is there. We do that. It's not just
Can you tell them how we run the
project management
retros?
team sitting in the room together. What was
Can you tell
that?
them how we run the retros? Because that's really neat.
I also think we benefit incredibly from the fact that our team don't ever like blame each other. Like they all kind of agree that things pop up and we have problems, but they're never like, oh, so and so didn't get their thing done. That's why. There's none of that.
I agree.
And so yeah, the data part is really the biggest part that's recorded as far as what we have. So we can go back in Harvest and we can look at our overall hours that we spent on a given project. And again, like I said, I can break it down super granular. I can look at it really big. In Harvest, you can see things over time. A lot of times I'll map something out and actually show how did this chunk of work happen over time in the process. I just did that for a project we just launched a month ago. that did end up going, that's one of the two that was on the board, did end up going over budget. So the question was why and how are things working? This was, we need content from the client. They definitely held us up. Were we able to still move forward with things? Yes, we were, so that's part of a lot of what we do is just try to map out a visual of what happened with the project. That's really my role in the operations. So I put all that together and present it, to everybody so that we know how it worked out.
But retrospectives, which I love.
Oh, our retro. So we
Can you talk a
do
little bit about that?
we do quarterly retros. So not specific to a given project, but so we have our design dev team together whenever we do sprint planning, and so we do retros together. We have our inbound team to do their sprint. We do retros separately, so it's not all of us together.
How frequently does it?
Quarterly. I got it. So we all sit down, and I usually give them about 10 minutes with an actual sticky and a Sharpie. So this is not electronic, and everybody is given the same instruction every time. We try to think mostly about process. So, how things work, what worked well, what didn't work well, with each other. So across the team, with our clients. Was there something on a specific project that we're looking at? Was there an actual just internal process of how we're working on things? So you just kind of trigger some things, and you do look back over a quarter. So it's a big period of time. I usually put up some of the projects that we worked on over the last quarter, just to refresh everybody's memory. And then we go round robin around the room, and you're supposed to only put one sticky at a time. You actually have to stand up, stick it on the wall, and we have 4 different categories: good, bad, better, best. So, what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do better next time, and what was amazing this quarter, what was a really standout amazing thing. And it's a fantastic way to get everybody really thinking about what we worked on. You really, the conversation starts out, one person will come up with one sticky and they'll put it up and they'll start to talk, and 3 other people are like, oh, I have that same sticky, but mine isn't bad, and mine isn't best, because everybody had a different experience about that particular thing of what they were doing. So it really gets everybody having a good conversation, thinking more like a team, and I guess kind of to that point, really thinking about what went well on a project and how can we work better next time. So, as the facilitator, I'm not there to say anything is good or bad. Just kind of keep the conversation going. I don't put any stickies up on the board, so it's only for the people who are hands-on doing the work, and I don't give stickies either. Super helpful. Kristen wishes that she could do them.
Yeah, Chess was very clear that I'm not allowed to say anything, right? So, my whole role as a stakeholder, as a managing partner, whatever my title is, I sit there and just take it, which is great, though, because then, because of that, we've got so many good ideas and feedback that I would have otherwise never heard from developers and all parties involved. So that's really an awesome tool. I've had to be honest.
How about retros for projects too? Are we still doing those?
Well, we condensed them down to quarterlies, and if you guys work with your clients, I would suggest that if you have ongoing relationships with your clients beyond just one and done, do those retros. I think, like you said, sometimes I had my own words. What's the saying?
Take credit, yeah.
So, even while I'm sitting there, just listening to it, but the fact of the matter is right,
well, because you miss the things there's things that you think actually went well, but the client didn't.
That's right.
And you don't know that if you don't have that post-mortem.
We all get a little better, a little closer to being better. Right? And that's the day you're closer to being a partner and less than.
And really all talking cross-department in the room, because like I said, design's experience may have been, this was amazing, this was wonderful, we had so much fun, this was a great project, we came in under budget on our part of it, and then we handed something over to the developer who was like, this sucked, what you gave me was horrible, it was really hard for me to work with, oh, wow, okay, this is a great conversation. Thankfully, that was very early in the beginning, but now we're having a lot more, because that was happening, we're having a lot more of those 5 and 10 minute conversations between design and dev. We're having a lot of, cross back and forth. The designer will create something. Let the developer look at it. Was this a good idea? Is this something you can actually build? Did I design something that's going to take you 3 hours to do or 30 hours to do? That's good to know. Let's not make it 30 hours. We can adjust. So because of that, we've adjusted how we, are having that conversation inside of an actual project.
I like that term too, the retrospective as opposed to post-mortem.
Post-mortem, I hate post-mortem.
Yeah.
We call them sometimes retrospectives too.
Smart.
The first few we had to drink beer so they would actually come. And now we have a little bit more buy-in. What I was going to say was, from all the retrospectives we've done, from the very first one to the most recent one we've done, I feel like there's been a shift from a lot in bad to now a lot more is in good.
I agree. Yeah.
And because it's really about our internal processes and making those smoother, and just a year of talking about them openly and
it is. It's
working on them.
Yeah.
And I've seen that migration happen, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
And the intent too of us not having that input is, you're not telling us something so that we can do something. It's for you as a team to think about and talk about and, change behavior or figure out a better way to do something next time around. Not for Zooey to come in and say, okay, based on the retro, we're doing this now. Like, no, you're the team. You talk to each other. Now you know that. Now you're going to have those conversations. Now you're going to change the way you do it.
Yeah. It really is about group empowerment, team empowerment. And
One of our
none of us are
tenets.
smart as all of us. What? What's that?
One of your core tenets. Yeah.
I was saying none of us are as smart as all of us. That's kind of the key to our team process, right? Like, unless you go waterfall with some business stakeholder up here making these levels, making these decisions and specs, the further removed you are from others.
Yeah. Well, I can really see it now because I was looking at those when you wrote them down before, but it's teamwork, communication, flexibility, the working software I'm not quite getting, but I get the other three really well.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny. Well, because if you look at the marketing Agile, because Agile marketing is a whole thing as well. So if you look at the Agile marketing manifesto, they've kind of adapted these things. So it's not working software where it's like converting, pages, or it's actually functioning website.
Function. Yeah.
So it's like the model Google Docs versus Excel model, right? Like all of us in this room mostly probably use 20% of what Excel can offer, but instead they've got tons of money on the other 80% too. But we're not like certain companies are just focusing on that 20% that they hit up apart. That's kind of what that starts with. It's like working software over like heavy documentation or something like that, or it's a matter of just.
Except for this one.
No, that was
Basically doing what's
process documentation.
every single situation.
Yeah, but that's all. That's all it is getting back to the MVP process. Like, what is really valuable software? Like, what do you need to get the job done? Let's get there. Just keep on providing.
Maybe that one was really just MVP when it all comes down to it. Yeah. Okay. You guys have been incredibly open and great, honestly. Have you guys got any more questions? I mean, I know we're at like about an hour right now, so a little bit over an hour actually. Any more questions, folks?
When you were over budget, what was the reason? Or what were some of the reasons?
Our most recent ones, our most recent ones, I would say, certainly on the project I worked on, I think some on the two that we had on each one of our projects. For me, it was a new process that we're trying out. So my project was an in-between point that got us to pattern libraries. And then Kristen's project was the first one that we really went full bore on pattern library. So it was the very first one that we actually did that on. So it was just evolution of design and data.
Yep. And just internally, some of that overage we have, kind of encapsulated as an agency investment, because now the next one,
It's like when you probably first started using Trello or started using Agile, it cost you more at the beginning because you had to get to that process.
Or when we started using custom post types in WordPress, right? Or when we started designing different page templates or whatever those things are. The first time you do it,
oh yeah.
I mean, our inbound sprint plannings, we started at 4 hours, I think it would take us to sprint out 2 weeks.
Oh my God,
20 projects.
Like a full day.
It was insane. And we're down to 2 hours or under for 2 weeks for a team of 5. I mean,
planning we planned stuff down to like half hour.
Everything.
That's impressive.
And cutting it in half, but over time, we just we got better at it, and everybody got used to it, and I don't know. That's just.
What we show now with going is directly proportional to kind of our costs is directly proportional to the scope, and ill-defined scope in the beginning, and that's really what we're still suffering from time to time. So the project we reference here, it's we didn't embrace that change, right? We thought people were honest, and I hate to say this, but like we were asked to really come up with this strict plan, right? The guy comes from this old school world where he's like, all I care about are dates, don't talk about anything else. So we never had this, we never had customer buy-in, right?
Yeah.
There was never interaction, without going into details, like our weekly updates were calls only, no paper trail, and that stuff. It was just a matter of whatever. So we didn't really get this whole interaction piece either. And so at the end of the day, we went back to just the old habits again of saying, hey, 3 months, no problem, we're going to build you A, C, E, G, whatever, right? And lo and behold, of course, you get the timeline, now you've got
B and D.
that's really the problem, right? And that's why I think that when we do fall, it's much bigger than before. That's where it is. Yeah, in fact, just kind of the biggest thing I've heard is if you guys look for references, Jack Steele's from UGC Agile, that's huge. And he talks about, I don't know how huge he is. He's huge in my head, but he talks about the moment you're successful with Agile is the moment that you stop thinking of Agile as a project management. Because it's not. It almost has nothing to do with project management, right? It's the way that we have to start thinking. It's just because
Teamwork, communication, flexibility.
Day in, day out, and you gotta know that's the fact of what we do with companies.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it matches so we have our core values and they're painted on. You guys are happy to walk you through the office after this. They're huge on the wall in there, and one of them is open and honest always, right? And so it's always being really transparent about timelines and transparent about what's possible, what's not, what's missing, or what was problematic. And so, like I said, we finally sort of have internal processes that match the things that we've always said we value: the ownership of the work, that open and honesty, the keeping, communicating with clients and being happy with the work.
Thank you guys, seriously.
Thank you guys for your attention.
This has been a presentation from WordPress St. Petersburg. We meet regularly once a month in downtown St. Petersburg. We're currently looking for a location to host, so as soon as we find one, we'll be posting our new schedule for the rest of the year and next year. Our website is https tampabaywp.org. We have 6 regional meetups that meet throughout the Tampa Bay area, and we kind of organize our meetups within each of those cities. So if you're interested, please join us on meetups.com, WordPress St. Petersburg. Thank you.